Welcome to the latest episode of the Indoencers Podcast. Today we have a really special guest who I've personally been a fan of for nearly 10 years. Many of you may know him for his famous covers or for his playback singing material. Some of you may know him as a brilliant independent composer. Some of you may know him as someone who has graced the stage in many of the world's top theatrical productions, and some of you may have even seen his films. Our guest today is a true human embodiment of what it means to be truly committed to art for art's sake, and his artistic contributions transcend art forms, genres, languages, and geographical boundaries. You may have seen him as Moses, as Hamilton, as Kannan, as Vadiyar, and today I'll be talking to the man that encompasses all these personalities plus much more. The creative extraordinaire that is Diluckshan Jeyaratnam. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm super excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you so much, Nishad. That introduction was wow. You made me emotional. Oh my God.
Good. Okay. First impression, tick. I'll take that. No, it's funny because every time I do these intros, the guest always is sort of taken back for like 1 or 2 seconds. But this is like one of my favorite things because I'm every guest that I have on, like I'm a huge fan of them and I think they're like one of the greatest people on earth. And I want to hype them up as much as possible. So hopefully I've done at least a little bit of that here as well.
No, absolutely. I think the part that got to me is the fact, is the level of research, if that makes sense, because I've had amazing interviewers who they've done some background checks and stuff like that, but just you like lining up all of these how do you say, these names and titles and stuff. Even I'm like, oh God, did I do that? Even I was like, okay, I'm sorry, I'm not going to swear, but yeah, I was.
No, you can't. Don't worry.
I was taken aback. So thank you so much for that. Appreciate it.
Well, we have a whole 2 hours to just go deep into your journey. So let's do just that, and let's go back all the way to the beginning.
Sure.
And I really want to start from the beginning.
Yeah.
So you were born into quite a musical family, right? Your dad played the guitar, your mother sang. They were both in this sort of Tamil orchestra kind of thing. Your sister played the piano, right? So it's a very sort of musical environment from day one.
Very
What's your
true.
sort of earliest musical memory? And just tell me a little bit about your earliest sort of musical environment.
Sure. As you said correctly, I was born into this musical family, and I clearly remember the environments of being filled with music, from a very young age, where at an age where I wasn't even able to do anything much myself. I still remember these small flashes and of listening to music and watching people play music. Like there were these like small rehearsal spaces where my parents and their band, they rehearsed together for countless of concerts. So I was very much brought into that world from a very early stage of my life. And I remember my parents telling me stories. I can't even remember this, but they tell me stories about how when they had these breaks during their rehearsals, I would go and pick up the drumsticks from, we had these uncles who played drums, and I would just pick up the drumsticks and I'll just start drumming on their like electric drum pads while they were on their break. And the beautiful thing about this is that none of them ever took those sticks away from me. They were always just like, let him play, let him like get into this. I think they were very much fond of the idea of me getting into the music, musical side of things, like they do. So yeah, like it started very early. My mother tells me countless stories about how I would take pots and pans from the kitchen, and then I'll take like these wooden spoons, like ahapes and stuff, and I'll just start like pounding on these pots and pans just to create sounds, and like how from very early on they were like, he's going to be a drummer. We can feel that he's going to be some kind of drummer, some kind of rhythmical person in some way. So yeah, like you said, it just started very early on.
Was there something, because what you're describing right now, obviously there's different elements to music, right? But
Mhm.
clearly what drew you at first was the rhythmic aspect of it. Was
Yeah,
there something about that you think that drew
I think.
yeah.
I think so, very much, because like I started out as a drummer, like they predicted. I don't know if it was something I discovered myself, or I was just like indoctrinated to it. But whatever, I'm grateful either way. But like I was very much stubborn that I wanted to only play drums. Like what everyone knows today, as in guitar and a guitarist and a singer, that came way later. So I think I was very much keen on the idea of rhythm from the get go. I was told how I loved listening to Jackson, who I'm still a fan of to this day, and how I loved putting on his concerts and just dancing along, like try to replicate his moves. And to anyone who's fond of Michael Jackson, they will know how rhythmical the music is. Like even in his singing, like all these small vocal details he puts in, it's very percussive, right? It's very rhythmical. So I think there's definitely something about the fact that rhythm was always playing a big part in me as a person and an artist. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm curious to learn more about that environment that you grew up in because,
Mhm.
you're a Tamil artist who
Yeah.
was born and raised in Denmark, right?
Yes.
So there's already a sort of mixture of cultures coming in there. Obviously, looking at your work today, there's so many sort of global influences from around the world. What was
Mm.
your sort of early environment like with respect to the balance of Indian influences, Danish influences, and other influences?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, in terms of music, it was from early on, it was very much exclusively Tamil music. That was both, how do you say, South Indian cinema, like Tamil cinema songs, but also like Ilangai songs, like
Mm-hmm.
because I'm Ilangai Tamilan. So there was definitely a lot of influence from that as well, and and it was such a big part of my life that I honestly didn't have much room left to, how do you say, Western music influences, other than Michael Jackson. To be honest, I was very much like knee deep in the Tamil side of things. It was very much like 90s Rahman and very much Ilayaraja. And because my parents, again, they were so gracious with sharing their, how do you say, their musical upbringing. So it was also very much MS Viswanathan and Gandasala, like all these incredible classic artists who are, to me, legends, right? So I was very much filled with that, and it wasn't until later on when I started going to like, I think what you would be calling maybe primary school or maybe secondary school. It wasn't until then the Western influences came. Like I started playing a lot of drums in school in our bands and stuff and music lessons, and I got introduced to like rock music for the first time, and I just fell in love with it. I thought it was like a whole new world that opened up to me. So yeah. Sorry, I don't know if I'm sidetracking a bit, but to get back to your question, it was very much Tamil for the most part at the beginning of my, how do you say, the musical awakening, so to speak. Yeah.
By the way, please feel free to get sidetracked. This is the place to do
Perfect.
that.
Perfect.
But on the note of sidetracking, something
Hmm.
that I find interesting about, what you just mentioned is your
Hmm.
sort of early exposure to a lot of older music, whether it be Raja
Hmm.
sir or TMS sir, MSV sir, etc. And I
Yeah.
hear a little bit of that influence in your music today. We'll talk a
Wow.
bit more in detail
Yeah.
later on, but I really feel there's sort of that old soul aspect to it.
Wow.
Do you think that was there from a young age for you?
First of all, I want to thank you for that because I really do sincerely take that as a huge compliment, because he is my like the biggest in my world, at least, Liraja. So in terms of music, I think it's very much influenced by that because it's a lot of that music that we played. I mean, as soon as I joined my parents, like their band, I went on stage at the age of 4 as a drummer, and haven't like couldn't stop since. So, and a lot of the songs we played were actually these songs was like Raja songs. It was early Rahman, like 90s songs, obviously, and I just loved the way like one thing is how you feel listening to the music, but I loved playing it, like playing a lot of these Raja songs especially it was a joy for a young musician, let alone me now as a grown up. It's such a joy to play that music because first of all, it is written like most of it, especially what he composed in the 80s. It's made for live musicians. Like they didn't have, as you know, they couldn't record like separate tracks back then. They didn't have the technology, so it was basically a band playing live in the moment, and that got recorded into a song. So you could feel that when you were playing them yourself. You could feel this is meant for me. Like, this is meant for a live musician playing on stage. So it was always such a joy to play these songs. And the more the older I got, and the more I got to understand like the minute details in his writing, and like the more I understood music theory, it was like I started appreciating, especially Raja's composition in a whole different way, because to me, he's a true composer. Like he writes his own sheet music, like Mozart did. He writes it in hand, and he arranges all his music and gives it to all the musicians. That was so inspiring. Like I could never do that, but I'm always in awe of that. I'm striving to try to reach some of that greatness. But once I started understanding the details in his music, it was mind blowing, and I was definitely feeling like if I ever were to write my own songs or compose, I wanted to have that same level of, like you say, like a soul, like a detail. So it's for me, it's always about what can I do to be timeless in whatever I make, like, because I know it has its place that something is very trendy and something works very well right now, or whatever might come in like 5 years. For me personally, I would love to do my best, at least, to create something, whether it's music or films or anything, that has a timeless quality that could stay as relevant as it is now, like 30 years from now. Because that's how I feel Ilayaraja songs are to me. They're timeless, and the same with a lot of Rahman's 90s songs as well. So that's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm striving for, right? Yeah. So I hope and assume that when you say that my music sounds like it's influenced by Raja Seth, I hope that's what's coming through. It's the timeless quality, hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely does. I'll tell you, in fact, the exact moment that link
Yeah.
happened in my head. It
Yes, love
wasn't
to hear it.
actually with Bayanam. Bayanam, I felt,
Mm,
was a bit more, if I had to choose a composer, a bit more
mhm.
Rahman-ish.
Yeah.
But it was
Cool.
it was with the title track of Jodi. And there's that one
Wow. Yeah.
line, "Da-da-da-da-da-da."
Hmm.
Just
Yeah.
something about that felt like I was being transported back into like the 60s or 70s.
Oh my God.
And I
That's
was like,
wow.
oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Even I'm getting goosebumps because you're saying these things. Oh my God.
It
Thank
felt
you.
like we need to put a black and white filter on the film at that moment because, it
Wow.
just felt like we
Yeah.
were going back.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm just it's just a theory. So I'm just
Right.
theorizing right now. Maybe what you feel is what I felt like when writing those moments, because what I some to mention one of many wonderful details that I love about Ilayaraja's composing is he gives such an importance to chords, like the chords that he writes underneath his melodies, because we have, like, in Tamil music, Tamil cinema, Carnatic music, we have so many beautiful, timeless melodies. But what I find very exciting is how you can um, add to a melody with chords, or even manipulate a melody with chords. Like you can have a melody with certain notes, and then you can put some chords underneath it that might complement it, that might conflict it to make it more like, ooh, what happened? Like it makes, I think melodies are very satisfying, but I think chords actually emphasize emotions in a way. Like they make you feel certain things. That's, at least for me, that's how they
Mhm.
feel. And I think for me personally, Ilayaraja is a master of that. Like he's like, the way he uses chords and bass lines, which I think until this day no composer has done, at least not at the same way he does. Which is not to say better or worse, but at
Yeah,
least
yeah.
he does it in a very unique way. So I remember that, like, once I started writing my first like original compositions, I wanted to uh chords have to be important. They have to be prioritized. The bass line has to be prioritized. It shouldn't be it shouldn't be like second in line. It shouldn't be like sidetracked, put to the side. And what I think, at least, that you felt when you listened to is the line like "Mm, nan talatum talangal." Yeah, like that's a beautiful melody. Like the
Yeah.
melody rises. Like the melody itself, I felt that's beautiful, but it's the chords underneath, the
Yes.
bass line underneath that take it to that next
100%.
emotional level, if you ask me. And I appreciate it so much that you notice that as well. That is, to me, that is pure Raja. That I agree with you. That's pure Raja. It's like stolen from the man, very much in a way. And if you ask me, I wouldn't be surprised even if that melody somehow is from a song he made.
Mm.
It's not a conscious choice, but I'm sure it has been in the back of my head somehow, and that inspiration came when I sat with the guitar and tried to compose the song, and I totally agree with you with Payanam, because Payanam was very intentionally made as a challenge for myself, because I wanted to see if I could break a bit loose from what I know is my comfort zone. Like I
Mm.
know that my comfort zone would be writing songs more like the title track from Jodi, to be honest. That was very much my comfort zone. But in Payanam, I was like, okay, if I am going to make an album or an EP, let's see how far I can push it but still stay true to what I want to create, right? So I think you're totally right. I think Payanam is not at least that much inspired by Ilayaraja. Even though I can tell for sure that there are certain parts in certain songs that are very much inspired
Mm.
by Ilayaraja. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we jumped the gun little bit, talking so much about, your compositions, and we'll get there, of course. But
Yeah.
coming back,
Sure.
to your early days, obviously many of your fans today know you as a brilliant singer, and that
Mm.
journey actually came slightly later,
Yeah.
in your childhood. And I read an interesting story about how it took a singing competition to sort of convince you that,
Yeah.
singing was something meant for you. And I think that's
Yeah.
also significant because, that's a stage, and stage is so much of what defines
Yeah.
you and your career and your life today. So tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about that experience and how your sort of relationship with the stage evolved
Yeah.
across your childhood.
Absolutely. So it's very true. It started with a singing competition. Like I have been singing for myself very privately for many years in my childhood, prior to actually singing on stage. And my parents, my sister, and my grandmother, they very much noticed it. My amama, she was like, "Ni murdi la pada, you have to sing on stage." And I was like, no, no, no. I was stubborn, right? I was like, no, I'm only gonna play drums. I'm never gonna do anything else. And they really tried. And then it was my amama, it was my grandmother, who finally was like, sing at the next concert your band is going to play, and I'll give you a present. So basically I took a bribe, like lanjamang. This is a 9-year-old kid being like, oh, you're telling me I can get presents for doing this, and I can get whatever I want. But grandmothers and
Yeah.
grandsons, right? Like that's a special relationship. And I remember telling her, okay, because I thought she was bluffing. So I was like, okay, if you buy me Tarzan, Disney's Tarzan on VHS, because I just watched that and I was like, oh my God, it's amazing. And if you buy me Pokemon Stadium, the game for Nintendo 64, I will go on stage and sing. And she called my bluff. Yeah, she was like, "Nam pandra, ni poi paade." So I had no choice. so so yeah, but God bless her. She started something that never went away. So that's beautiful. But yeah, I went on stage. My entire family was like, yes, let's do this. They were supporting me, and my sister, like, because at that time, like now I can like read Tamil like slowly,
Mhm.
but I can still read it. Back then, I really couldn't read it, and
Mhm.
especially not enough to like be on stage and read the lyrics and sing. So my sister like transcribed the lyrics with like Phoenician letters, like Western letters,
Right.
so I could read it. And she spent hours with me. I remember me being in my sister's room with her, and she would spend hours with me, like really pushing me and like, இந்த வார்த்தை இப்படி இருக்கணும். This word needs to be like this. It's not la, it's law. Like all these things. And we spent so many hours, and then we went on stage and I sang this song. It was actually like a Ilatu padal, and I actually won first place for my age category for that performance. And honestly, I promise you, I didn't even think about it being a song competition, because if I did that, maybe I wouldn't have gone up. I think I'll be
You were
like, no,
only
no, no, no.
thinking about the Tarzan and the
I
game,
was
right?
only thinking about the presents. Like, this is the 9-year-old kid in me. This is the 9-year-old selfish kid in me being like, I'm gonna get this, you know? And I still remember to this day, because I was also playing drums at that concert. So I couldn't leave the stage until the concert was over. So after singing, I went back, I played the drums for the rest of the concert. Everyone said Nandri Vanakkam. I went down from the stage, and my grandmother at the time, she was in a wheelchair, and I remember her like being rolled up like to me when I left the stage, and she was like having these two presents in her hand. So it was like, it was payment, like it was like in a sort of, it was like a payment on site, you know, after the job was done. So I felt, yeah, maybe that's the feeling I've been chasing to this day. No, but I but I do remember the wonderful feeling of being like, I was always in the back of the stage playing drums, right? And I do remember that adrenaline kick of being in front and singing. And even though I was a kid and it was very nerve-wracking, there was also some kind of liberating feeling about it. And I think that's what I just couldn't let go of that feeling. So since that day, I never refused singing on stage, if that makes sense. I was like, okay, sure, I can do it. And so yeah, I have to thank my whole family, but in particular my grandma, for bribing me. Yes,
Do you have
it's efficient.
nerves?
It's efficient, people. Sorry, what?
Do you have nerves? Have you had nerves?
I do. I do. It's funny because when I tell this, people don't initially believe it, but it is the truth. I have nerves every time before going on stage, but I do take it as a positive thing, because it
Mm.
feels like this is something that's very important to me. Like, this means something to me, you know? So I feel like if I didn't, if a day comes where I don't have nerves before going on stage, maybe it's not as significant to me. Maybe I should
Oh.
thinking about doing something else. Maybe, I don't know, but I do have nerves. But the funny thing is, as soon as I enter the stage and as soon as I like utter the first note, so to speak, I feel like, okay, now we're using those nerves as how you say, as a drive kind of thing, you know? Yeah. So I do.
Those nerves turn into excitement, I guess.
Very much, very
Yeah.
much. Yeah.
You know, and speaking of excitement, you know, a lot of your sort of early musical explorations when you were a child, I'm
Mm.
sort of making assumptions here, correct me if I'm wrong, but
Go for it.
seem to
Yeah.
be driven by excitement, right? You were talking about
Mm.
the wooden spoons and pans, right? That's just
Yeah.
a child sort of letting loose and playing. And you
Yeah.
were actually never sort of super formally trained or anything, right?
True. True.
You were just sort of exploring and learning on your own. I
Yeah.
mean, did you have like a practice routine or was it just like bursts of inspiration constantly happening, which was sort of
Yeah.
spurring
I
your
think
musical beginnings? Yeah.
that's a great question. I think in the early stages, Nishat, it was in a sort of, it was playfulness. At the early stages, as you say, it's like a kid playing with a toy, but just loving to play with instruments. So, and my father especially realized this very early on. So he tried to like put different instruments in my hand, which I initially rejected because I only wanted to play drums. But he was like, he was a guitarist himself. He was like, guitar basic, like guitar is a great instrument to know. You can play for yourself when you're singing. Like, you know, he saw the future before I did. So he was like, you can play just for yourself. You don't need to be dependent on other people if you want to perform like alone. And I was very stubborn. I rejected that. I wanted to play the drums, but the playfulness in me couldn't stop. So that was the first motivation. Like in a sort of the my father would be like, Suma 30 pata vandurum. So 30 paru vandurum. And he always said that. So I did that. Like, just try playing around and you will learn something, you know? So those were my toys in many ways. I love playing with toys, but yeah, the instruments especially were my toys at a young age. So yeah, to answer your question, like playfulness was definitely the biggest motivation, and after that, imitation was actually a huge tool for me, because as you said, I wasn't formally trained. So for me, Hariharan was like the first and biggest Tamil like influence for me. So listening to Hariharan, like listening to Vanillave Vanillave, listening to Yennai Thalata Varuvala, like I tried to imitate him. Like I tried to be like, okay, how does he do these sangadis? How does he do these riffs? So I I sat down and like tried to decipher the notes, like and like try to find out how to put it together. So imitation was a huge tool for me starting out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, with Hariharan, you imitate his recorded version and you feel like you've got it. Then you hear his
Yeah.
live version and you're like, whoops, my life was a lie.
Yeah, it's very true. Then you're like, okay, I could throw it all out again. start from scratch one, right? Like start from scratch. But it's very true. But that was the beauty. I think I realized that, here's a person, here's a singer, as all of these amazing singers back then, they found their own unique voice and style. For me, it was very much about imitating. So if I knew I had to sing a song by Hariharan, I wanted to sound exactly like him. And if I sang Anjali Anjali Pushpanjali, I wanted to sing it like SPB to the best of my abilities, because no one can sound like those legends. But yeah, but that was how it started, at least. And it wasn't until later, like I understood the importance of starting to find my own voice, like own sound, but I would recommend it to anyone who's not like formally trained, or for some reason isn't interested in being formally trained, which is fair. I mean, I would be like, try imitating. You can really learn a lot from really listening to all the details that singers make and try to imitate it. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you're talking about, that sort of playfulness, obviously today, one of your sort of key, sort of unique characteristics as a musician is your ability to play various different instruments.
Mm.
And, that's something that's happened over time. You started out with the drums, and now we see you, playing guitar and piano on a lot of videos. I know you've played bass on your tracks. I read that you play like the saxophone, though I've never seen it.
Yeah, so I was interested in playing the saxophone at a point, and my father, again being who he is, like bought one and like put it in my hands. So I started for a bit, but I was very bad at keeping it alive. It's like a muscle. You have to keep training it, otherwise you forget this. So, but recently I found that love again, because we have done these Tamil intimate concerts in Denmark named Ali Paide, and the whole band was very keen on me playing the saxophone for at least one song. And unfortunately, we lost SPB a few years ago, and we wanted to do some kind of tribute for him. So that's where I was like, okay, perfect. We're gonna do like a mashup of the songs from Do It.
Right.
Yeah. So we will do a start of Anjali Anjali, the flute bit, and then we'll go into Enkadali,
Right.
which I played. But I honestly, like, many people don't know this, our band does. I practiced for almost a year for that, because first of all, I hadn't played the saxophone in many years, so I really wanted to get a head start. But also because it is such an incredibly tough instrument to play, and it requires a lot of different muscle groups that I'm not used to use for many years. So I was like, for a year, I tried practicing at least like 10 minutes every other day, just to get those muscles working again. But it paid off. It paid off. Like on stage, it actually worked. So yeah, I do play the saxophone. However, I do need to rehearse for a long time, is my point, to play it. Yeah.
So these instruments just sort of progressively came into your life, or was there a moment where you, like a phase of your life where you just wanted to play everything, or what was that like?
Yeah. So I think the second instrument I played after the drums was the guitar, and my father had, as I said, been asking me for many years, and I was like, no, 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 no. And one day I watched this video. It was actually a video of Danish comedians who also do musical segments, and they had a segment where two of them were playing guitars, and there's this one guy in the middle singing. It was like a comedy segment, but the music was really beautiful, and it was inspired by flamenco music, like Spanish flamenco music. So they had like classical nylon guitars, and I heard the guitar for the first time in my life. At that point, I heard the guitar being played in a different way that I'm used to. Like I hadn't heard the guitar be played in that way in Tamil songs and the songs that I grew up listening to. So I was like, "Ooh, that's exciting. What is that?" And I don't know if my father spied on me or he had a security camera in my room, but he somehow found out. Like parents always know. It's funny, right? They always know. So one day, my father leaves a brand new black guitar in my room, and I'm like, என்ன பண்றீங்க? What is this? And he was like, இல்ல இல்ல சும்மா வச்சிட்டு போறேன். And he was like, then he just left the room, and I was like, what's wrong with this guy? Like, what's he doing? And funny enough, because I just kept watching that video, and I was like, this sounds so good. How do they play this? And it was on a DVD. It was a DVD I borrowed from a friend. So I paused the DVD and I looked at how they were like holding their fingers on the fretboard of the guitar. And funny enough, there was a guitar in my room, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna try and take this thing. And I promise you, like 2 days after this man leaves this guitar in my room, I'm starting like plucking notes. I think he must have laughed. I mean, I don't know if he did, but he must have laughed. He'd be like, "Did he?" Like, I know this dude would do this someday. So, and that's the beginning. That's how it started. And that guitar is still there at my childhood home. The black guitar is still there. It's very sentimental. Like my father's that this guitar will always be here. Like I'm never gonna sell it. It's not gonna go anywhere. And the funny thing is, whenever I come home to my parents, I live like an hour from my parents right now. But whenever I do go home, the guitar is there. It's always there in the living room, and I can't help it. I always take that guitar and play it. And a lot of the inspiration for a lot of the songs that I've written actually started on that guitar. It's very funny. And some people ask me about why don't you just bring it home with you? I'm like, no, I think there's something there. Like I think there's a reason why I should be at my parents' house. And once I go, I'll just play it, and then I get an inspiration. I'll take my phone and record a quick voice memo, be like, and then I'll go home and work on that. Like Jodi started there, like the title track for Jodi. The chord progression started there on that guitar. So yeah, like that's how that happened. I saw this video and I was very inspired by this different way of playing the guitar. And for a lot of the other instruments, it was kind of like the same thing. Like the bass was actually the third instrument. That was the next in line, so to speak. And that was because my sister's ex-husband was the bass player in our band, and he was really talented, and he very much introduced me to like much more of Ilayaraja's music, because he is such a great fan of Ilayaraja to this day, I'm sure. But he introduced me to that, and he made me notice how bass was an important part of pretty much all of Ilayaraja's songs. Like the bass playing was so nuanced, it was so complex, and it was like, I mean, pardon, it was sexy. Like the way of playing bass in Elijah songs, it is a sexy way of playing. It is incredible. So yeah, that's why I was like, oh, I want to learn this. I want to imitate. I want to listen to Raja's songs. I want to listen to like if you think about, for instance, it's one of those songs that many people don't know. I think it's not the mainstream, but the bass line is so incredible in that song, and
I'd have to go and re-listen.
Yeah, please do. And even like like the bass, not like we always think about the melody. Oh my God, Jayachandran, the way he sings that song is beautiful, and trust me, it is. But if you just try to notice the bass lines in these songs, it's like a whole new world opening up for you. So that's why I was like, I want to learn this. So I got to borrow my brother-in-law's bass, and I just started like practicing and playing it. And I would like invite him over with my sister and be like, can you listen to this? Can you tell me if this is correct? And they'll be like, yeah, this is good. This is a bit different. Like giving me notes and stuff. It was very fun memories. And then because sadly, you might say sadly, but my sister and my brother, like they split up, so he wasn't in the band anymore. We needed a bass player, and that's where my father was like, would you mind jumping onto the bass, and we'll find someone else to play the drums? And I was like, sure. And that's how that became a much bigger part of my repertoire as well. And it's the same thing with saxophone. I've been watching videos here and there. At a small part of my life, I also tried to learn sitar. It was not mission accomplished. Like it was because I have huge respect for that instrument. It's an incredible instrument to master, and I think at least at that time my patience level was just not at the right place. But still, I have so much love and admiration for that instrument. So it all starts with like me watching a video or something, being like, oh, that's exciting, I want to try that. Yeah. The piano was because of the school I went to, the musical academy.
Right.
Piano was actually one of the lessons we had, because it's not because they wanted us to be like professional pianists or anything, but it's like a nice tool to have when you have to rehearse songs for yourself, right? So I took that very seriously and wanted to like have a fundamental understanding of how to play piano. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love, how you start talking about, Rajaser's bass lines because that was
Mm,
the sort of recent, not recent, but I guess there was a moment maybe 4 or 5 years ago for me when when I was listening to Shinbagume
yeah.
Shinbagume. I
Oh
remember
yes.
Santosh Narayanan had mentioned it in an interview, so
Mm,
then I went back and listened to it.
mm.
And there's that moment at the end of the Chadnam, right?
Of the Charanam, yeah, yeah, yeah,
And then you have the bass line with just
yeah.
or something crazy like
It's
that.
crazy, like that small portion, like now we're getting very geeky and I love that. But that last portion of like that in itself is like uh incredible. But then the next parts, like both the bass line but especially the chords, like I remember talking with my sister about it, and I was like, and I think even she was like, I'm never gonna play that. Like that's because the way he changes chords is it's kind of inhumane, like
Yeah,
to any
yeah.
musician. But it just like when you listen to it, it's just like, oh my God, like this is like they don't make music like this anymore. It's incredible. It's so incredible. Yeah. But yeah, I agree with you. I totally agree with you.
Yeah. And you've been talking about, all this fascination towards music that you had as a
Mhm.
child. And obviously at some point, you need to make a decision, right? As
Yeah.
to, what you want to do with your life. And when you graduated high school,
Yeah.
I guess it's a slightly cliched framing, but you can either take the plunge and go for the arts or go for a
Mm,
more conventional mainstream degree.
sure. Sure.
And in a way, I think it sort of feels like you took a middle option, or at least,
Yeah.
because you did a sort of semi-creative degree. I believe it was in
Mhm.
multimedia design and
It
marketing,
was. It was.
which
Yeah.
incorporates creative elements in there, but it's
Sure.
also not quite 100% what you ended up doing today. Tell
Very
me a
true.
little bit
Yeah.
about where your head was at that time and what this
Yeah,
experience was like for you.
absolutely. So, after finishing high school, I felt like there was a crossroads. Like I wanted to do much more. If we talk about the arts, I wanted to pursue a lot more singing. So I was very much considering applying for the I think it's called, like in English, is the conservatory, the musical conservatory here in
Oh,
Denmark.
okay.
I yeah, I wanted to apply for that in the rhythmic singer yeah section, so to speak.
Right.
And
Wait, but sorry to
yeah,
interrupt.
sorry.
This is different from the Danish Academy of Music Theater you ended up
It
going
is,
to.
it is, it
Okay.
is exactly,
Uh,
because the conservatory is very much focused on musicians and singers. Like, there's not an element of theater
okay.
or dance into it. It's very
Right.
much music. It's like the elite school for for if you want to be a
Uh-huh.
musician or a singer
Yeah.
solely. So I was very much considering that and having conversations with my parents about it. And my father was always like my hype man when it came to music. So he was always like, "Need music, pull, yes, you go for it, like go for music." But my mother was, she was also like very much rooting for me in terms of music, but she was also being much more sensible about it. So she was the one who like at least added the notion of, would it maybe be more sensible to have another education something to fall back on,
Right.
I remember was her like reasoning for it,
Hmm.
behind it, like something to fall back on, and take another education where you can be creative, but and then see afterwards if you want to keep music as a hobby, or do you want to yeah, to pursue it fully on. uh Also because still in Denmark, like music arts in general, it's not a, how do you say, it's not a stable career. Like it's
Hmm.
not it can be unstable, right?
Yeah.
So she was very much thinking about that, and I know it's all because of care, so I totally understand her reasoning behind it. She's just a mother being a mother,
Yeah.
right? To her child, so I totally get that. So I and also at that point, like, I think it's important that we point at ourselves and think about, like, what do we do to make choices or enable certain things. And I wasn't ready to take the leap either at all. I was very much playing it safe. I was very much staying in my comfort zone. So I wasn't ready at all to pursue the arts. So I went for the conventional, so to speak, way. And I took a bachelor's degree in multimedia design and communication marketing. And I remember like halfway into that bachelor education period, uh, I had this strong feeling that I'm not at the place where I should be. Like this doesn't feel like the right thing for me. And I had a conversation with my mother about this, and I'm thankful. I'm thankful for what she said to this day. She was like, "I totally understand. You only have like 1.5 years left. Like this is all
Yeah.
you have left. So I would recommend that you push through, get that degree, get it finished, so you don't have to run away from it so close to the finish line,
Mhm.
and then feel what you like. Take a moment to feel what you want to do." At that time, being a teenager, I was frustrated. I was like, "Nah," but I did it. I listened to her, and I'm
Yeah.
still grateful that I listened to her, because I finished the degree reluctantly. I did finish it, and I got the degree, and then I tried to apply for jobs related to that degree for like 2 years. I got a few internships. Never felt content, never felt truly happy
Mhm.
about it. I knew I had the skills, but I was just not motivated to really go for it. So clearly I remember this moment. I just I locked my room, sat on my bed, and I was crying. I had a moment where I was like, I felt the weight of unhappiness like hit me for real after 2 years of nothing. And that's when I tried to like after having a good cry, it helps clear things up sometimes. And I started to like think like, what do I want? Like, what makes me happy? And at that time, I had done a few amateur productions, musical theater productions in our local theater. And I realized that that was where I was most happy. Like I was most happy when I was on that stage, telling stories with music and dance and acting and stuff. So I was like, how do I like? What can I do about that? Is there anything I can do about that to make a living? And all the people who have known me through high school will hate me for saying this because during high school, I went to I focused a lot on music and English, like language and music, on my high
Right.
school. So I went to school. My class was filled with talented musicians and singers and musical people, right? And all of them were like telling me every day almost like, you should go to the Academy of Musical Theater.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, what is that? Like they were like, this it's the only school in Denmark where you can take an education to become a professional musical theater performer. I was like, no, that's not me, that's not me. And they were all just they would keep telling me, do it, do it, do it. And I was like, no, that's not me. And then I took the university route, right? Once they found out that I was applying for the musical theater academy, they were like, "We told you, you like finally, and I also got accepted." And they were like, "Well, of course you got accepted. We've been telling you this for so many years." Yeah, they
No
were so mad.
congratulations, just a shrug
No,
of the
no,
shoulders. Like,
no,
of course, man.
they were scolding me. They were like, "I'm not gonna tell you congratulations. You never listened to me once." Like they were like scolding me. So yeah. Oh, sorry. So yeah, that's when I took that move. And I remember telling my parents about this. Like, I want to apply for the school. And I remember my father was like, again, hype man. He was like, "Yes, Nipo, like do it, just go for it. Musica, yes." And my mother was like, "You know what? I feel like this is the right time for you to try it out, like because there was a whole audition process, so it wasn't even guaranteed that I would get into the school, right?" She was like, "Try it out, give it a go, because otherwise you will regret it when you're like, in 30 years that you didn't even give it a chance." So I applied and I went to the audition. It was like, I think we were between 150 and 200 applicants, and from those applicants, after the first audition, they will take 25 people to the second audition. And then from that they would only take 8 people, usually 4 boys and 4 girls. Um, so it was a tough needle
Yeah. Yeah.
to get through. So I was very much, how do you say, I was very much aware of the fact that this might not happen, and I was just like, I need to give it a shot. And I remember after that first audition, when I walked through the school and the corridors and watched the rehearsal space, I was like, this place feels very much like home to me. Like, it's playfulness. It's like, it's the instruments. It's a drama there. There's like a dance studio there. I was like, I can just be a kid here, like, and play and learn. So it wasn't until that first audition I was like, I really want to go to this school. I really want to be part of this. And yeah, luckily enough, it did happen. I remember this. Yeah, I'm just gonna tell this anecdote. I remember after that second audition, it was on a Sunday. It was Saturday and Sunday. It was a full weekend for that second audition, final audition, and I knew that we would get our response Monday morning, like the morning after. So I was like brushing my teeth, and I look at my phone, and there's this email dropped, and I was like, "Do I want to open this?" And I opened it, and it said at the top, "Congratulations, Diluckshan, you've been accepted." Blah blah blah. And obviously I started crying, and then I went out of the bathroom with like toothpaste still in my, like, around my mouth. And I went, and my mother was every morning she would be praying. She would have this picture of Krishna, and she would be praying, every morning. And I remember going to her, and she sees me crying, and she was like, "Innap, and I was like, "Ata, nampasaite." I said that crying, and then she started crying, and then my father comes in from like the kitchen saying, like, "Na, and he started. So it was like a very beautiful, wholesome moment. I think even they felt how much this moment really meant. This was a defining moment, because I think we all knew that, okay, this is the path now. This is the path. Like, this is what I'm going to do. So yeah. So that whole process was it was an ordeal, Nishad. Like, it was a lot to go through, a lot of emotions, like from going to one university and then pursuing this and all of that. It was a lot of back and forth. But once the idea of pursuing the musical theater like that started, that was like, then it was like a nonstop thing. I just went for it. Yeah, and that was wonderful to have that clarity finally.
So much of what you're saying reminds me of another guest who came on.
Mhm.
You've sung a song with her, Sasha Tirupati.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh,
yeah,
she's amazing. Yeah.
yeah, she is. I had
Yeah.
her on quite a while back, 3 or 4 years ago. But
Mhm.
she was talking about, how when she was 16 or 17, she felt this urge to go into music. So she
Yeah.
locked herself in a room and, said she won't open until her mother lets her go to
Wow.
India. You should hear the
Wow.
whole story. It's
Yeah, I
crazy.
have to listen to this. Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah, so basically she locked herself up in her
Yeah.
room, said,
Mm.
"I'm not getting out until you," as in her mother,
Yeah.
let me pursue music, let me go to Mumbai. And she said Mumbai purely on a assumption based on a rumor that Rahman sir lived there turned out not to be true.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So she went to Mumbai
Wow.
and then she was on the streets for like a couple of days because she had no money.
Yeah.
And then just bit by bit, now
And she
she's a
and she went there from Canada, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. So she's had the experience, like the
Yeah.
the Asian immigrant experience, of
But
trying
I
to
mean,
convince. Yeah.
your
Yeah.
your situation's maybe not quite as extreme, but I see
It's
the
not
sort
as
of same.
dramatic. Yeah. It's not as dramatic. That's true. It's not as dramatic. Yeah, because I was never like, how do you say, forbidden
Right,
at
right,
any
right.
point to do this. It was very much my own fault, for delaying the whole. But I think it was all for the best, Nishant, because I was like, I wasn't ready to take that step. Like,
Mm.
but I respect Sasha for knowing this as a, what was it, 15, 16?
Yeah, something like that. I don't remember
Yes,
the exact
like
age, but
basically a child, right? Like
yeah.
a teenage kid. I respect her for having that clarity and vision at that young age. Me at that age, I would never have dared to take that step. I would be like, no, I'm just gonna do it in my spare time. It's just gonna be a hobby,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's so in that way, I'm very much grateful that I didn't take the step until I was 23 when I started at the musical academy. So yeah, I think it was all for the best. But yeah, that's amazing. I didn't know that story. I have to listen to that episode now. But yeah, she is. I mean, thank God she took that step, because
Mm.
oh my God, she's one of the absolute greatest
Yes.
that I've heard in recent times.
Yeah.
And again, coming back to it, a timeless voice. It's
Mm.
a timeless quality to that voice. This voice will be beautiful 60 years from now. Like, it will be. So that's amazing to hear that story.
Yeah, and talking about your story, you obviously got into the Academy of Musical Theater. And,
Mm,
you've talked about, your experience there in other interviews as well. But
mm,
there was a sort of quote of yours that really sort of stood out to me. I
mhm.
have it copy pasted in my notes. It
Wow.
says, one of the key philosophies of the school is that you need to know yourself in order to become the best performer you can be, by
Mm,
utilizing all the tools that you have.
mm.
So you are taught to work with your own body and get to know yourself in a way that is so deep and profound.
Yeah.
I'm really interested by that latter bit,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So what was that experience like in this academy in terms of self-discovery and
Mm.
self-exploration?
It was like to this day, like really to this day, Nishat, it was like the three most transformative years of my life, like those 3 years of being in that school. Because the thing is, we all know how our lives are. Like everything moves very fast. Like the time for self-reflection is it's there, but often very limited, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
we have to move fast in this world. So for 3 years I had kind of like a cocoon for myself. It was also the first time I moved away from my parents, so I was literally starting a new like life for
Right,
myself
right.
in a way, right? Living alone and going to the school, and we were only 8 people, like every there are like three how do you say grades and
Batches, yeah.
yeah, batches. So we have 24 and in total, but in my class only 8 people, so it's very small, it's very concentrated, and you have so much time, like I said, a cocoon for 3 years to really look inwards. And they encourage that, they encourage very much to look inwards to find out what makes you tick, like what makes
Mm,
you you, because otherwise you might just be a copy pasted artist among 1,000 others, getting into an already challenging
right.
market where there are a lot of people. So the uniqueness is very much important. It's very much essential. Um, and also growing up as we did, like the whole, like growing up as South Asian, immigrants, some might say the time to self-reflection, to really know yourself, is might be even less, who knows, because
Mm,
you're growing up amongst two sometimes complementing, sometimes conflicting cultures, trying to balance it. So yeah, it was a very new alien experience for me to be at the school for 3 years and having the time and space to actually look inwards and to understand myself, for better or for worse, like, and in order to use that in my professional work. So I got to discover a lot, like, I got to discover emotions that I had, not given space to beforehand, like anger, for instance, like, which is a huge part of
yeah.
acting as well, like channeling your anger, right? I couldn't do it for the first year. I had a hard time, and it's because anger was always something that I suppressed. I always suppressed it during my
Oh,
childhood. I didn't give space to it. I was like, no, I can't be angry. I can't shout at people. You have to be respectful. You have to be calm. All of these things. Um, and when I had to channel it in drama school, I just couldn't do it. So I had a teacher like giving me different exercises to try to bring it out. I'll tell one story that might sound scary, but it was very efficient. So
okay.
my teacher, she put a chair in front of me, and she put like a huge like black cloth in order to protect the chair. And then she gave me what do you call it, the jump ropes, what is that
Oh, yeah,
called,
yeah.
like
Jump ropes, yeah.
jump ropes, thank you.
Yeah.
She gave, but because we had this workout space,
Oh,
so she picked up a jump rope from there. She gave it to me, and she was like, I want you, pardon my French, I want you to whip the shit out of this chair right now. That's what she said in Danish.
okay.
That's what she said. And I was like, wait, what? It was very foreign to me. I was like, what
Right.
are you saying? And she was like, yeah, I want you to take this. I want you to whip this chair, and and I really want you to whip it. Like, really want you to whip it, and see what that does to you.
Mm-hmm.
And beforehand, we had a lot of talks, about our childhoods and stuff like that. Like a lot of kids go through this, like bullying and stuff
Yep,
like
yep.
that, and name calling. And she was like, and how did you react to that when you were a child? And I was like, well, I didn't. Because I didn't want to get angry. I didn't
Mm.
want to get in trouble. And she was like, okay. take this jump rope and whip the shit out of this chair. And I did. And I remember this experience. Again, it sounds scary, but it was a safe space because it was controlled, so to speak.
Right, right.
It was just our safe space. And it was only my classmates there besides me and my teacher. And I whipped it. And I remember how like tears started flooding. I started, and she was like giving me directions while I was doing this. She was like, what would you say to those kids now? Like, what would you say to those bullying kids? What would you tell them? And I started shouting things. I was like, what did I ever do to you? Like, why are you doing this to me? Why I'm not different? Why am I like, it's just because I'm brown, like all of
Yeah.
these things that I never said out loud. Like I even get choked up now when I think about it because it was really an emotional experience. And I remember at one point it was so trance like. So I didn't even realize that I was how much I was doing it. And
Right.
at one point I was done. And I promise you this happened. The jump rope was snapped, like it snapped off. So I stood only with the handles at the end. And the sweet little brown kid came in, like instantly came back, and he was like, I'm so sorry, I broke it, can I pay for it? And she was like, screw that, don't worry about the jump rope. Do you realize what you just did? And I was like, I got angry. And she was like, yes. So this was like, it was just one of, and I remember all my classmates, they were like sitting with their hands to their mouth and they were like
Right.
open wide open. They're like, oh my God. And I was even there, I was like, are you guys okay? And they were like, no, that was incredible. Like, like they didn't know that I had that in me. I
Right.
didn't know that. So this is just one example of how emotions came out in a way, because of these exercises and different like ways to read a monologue, like read a monologue. I remember I read this monologue uh, for one of our drama lessons, and my teacher, the same teacher, funny enough, she pushed me a lot, which helped. So she was like, okay, how would you read this if you were a homosexual man? And when she said that, I was very much like, I have no idea. Because again, it
Right.
was at that time for a brown kid, it was a very foreign concept.
Yeah.
I respect all kinds of people and love is love, but I had no
Yeah. Yeah.
awareness of what that was. And I
Right.
tried giving it a go and more and more. And again, there was this experience of how my voice modulation changed and my body language changed in minor ways. And I remember my classmates being like, again with their hands to their mouth and be like, oh my God. And there's this one classmate from my class, he was like, I don't know how to say this, but there's a beautiful homosexual man hidden inside of you. And I was like, thank you. I mean, I appreciate that. Like, he referred to it as a character, and I
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
appreciate
Yeah.
that. I appreciate that very much. But it's just to say that I think I just realized how we as human beings all have every single color inside of us,
Yeah.
but the circumstances that we grow up in can, highlight some more than others.
Mm-hmm.
But we all have the colors inside us. That's why actors can play psychopaths and killers and serial and like believingly and then still be sweethearts, like at least some of them. So yeah. So yeah, again, sorry, long rant, but it's just to say that that's what that school did to me. Like I really got to explore all kinds of different colors in me and be like, wow, I'm just gonna let that be. I'm not gonna lock it up anymore. I'm just gonna let it be because I can use it in my work and different characters. Yeah.
That anecdote about the anger is super cool
Mm,
because I'm just gonna connect it with a little bit of my own experiences.
sure.
I've not been like too much into theater, but what I
Mm.
have done is played a lot in the pit orchestras of musical theaters.
Yes.
So I talk a lot with the actors, right? And
Mm.
and like these were high schoolers, right? This is when I was in high school,
Sure,
so
sure,
not
sure.
professionals by any means. So people are just sort of starting to get used to the whole art and sort of
Yeah.
discovering a lot of things. And I remember having this one conversation with the person who was playing a really dark character.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact thing, but a
Mm.
serial killer or some sort of person who was messed up.
Mm.
Um, and he was so and he's like the he's one of my closest friends, he's really such a sweetheart. But he became sort of so into his role leading up, to the final performance. And he
Yeah.
was telling me after the fact, how it was starting to affect him, right? Because he'd
Wow.
gotten so into this role, and it was also a sort of set of emotions that he was so foreign to. I think
Mm,
there was the sort of shock factor of that, plus just the gravitas of this role, the extremity of this role, that
yeah.
sort of had an impact on his sort of life outside that role as well, just the life as him, right?
Mm,
And it
mm,
really sort of struck me how, being, sort of into a certain role, into a certain character, especially perhaps during, days when you're just sort of getting used to that, can
yeah,
sort of impact your character outside as well. Is that
absolutely.
something that you went through as well? Was there a process of needing to separate the characters that you were playing and Diluckshan, the regular human being?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think every single artist have their way of dealing with this,
Mm,
and to which degree. And for me, I think for me it was always important to come home, both literally but also figuratively.
mm,
It was important to me to like do my best to leave it all out on the stage. You know how athletes will say, I left it all out on the
yeah,
pitch.
yeah,
Like, and that's the mentality I have until this day, is that I want to do my best to leave it all out on the stage, like give everything I have to the character, to the story, to the point that when I leave the stage, I can actually leave it behind. Sometimes it's more successful than others, but this is at least the philosophy for me. I want to leave it all out on the stage, so when I come home, literally, to my family, to my wife, and now also my daughter, that takes over, like,
right.
like that's the feeling that evolves around me. But I do totally understand this example, like of being in a character where you explore feelings that are so foreign that you can't help but have some part of it with you, like take it with you when you leave, when you go home. um but I think it's healthy in a way also, because it, I've talked to people, especially like in my, how do you say, not my closest family, but
Right.
like outer, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
the outer ring, so to speak, and they'll be like scared. They're like, "Oh, you play this like a scary character, like." Doesn't that affect you? Like now you're gonna be a psycho, like
I was scared watching you play Kannan.
oh, really? Oh my god. I appreciate that. We'll get back to that. But yeah, no, but I told them, I think it's healthy because
Mm,
I touch a character who's, yeah, who's scary, who's like psychopath, psycho character maybe, but the conscious choice to be like, now I'm switching that off because I know that's wrong.
mm, mm,
I
mm.
think that's a healthy human experience, if you ask me,
That's true.
like having thoughts about, I remember, I love stand-up comedy. So
Uh,
I love watching certain comedians who like really speak to me. And I remember Ricky Gervais is
uh,
like one of my favorite
yeah.
comedians. And he'll be like, how sometimes you get a thought and you can't help it. So maybe you stand behind someone in the subway and you'll be like, what if I just push this person? And you'll be like, why did I think that? But then you make the conscious choice to be like, that's silly, I'm not going to do that. Now that's a healthy human experience. If you and I relate to that as an actor. And be like, we have all kinds of crazy thoughts on stage, and then we'll be like, why did I think that? I don't want to stab this person. And that conscious choice, to do the right thing, I think that's healthy, if that makes sense.
Mm,
So I
mm.
told my family, I'll be like, yeah, I played these characters, but I'm not those. I'm making a conscious decision not to be that person
Right.
in the real life. But in that story, sure, that character can do all kinds of crazy things. Um, so yeah, I think it's I don't think it's possible to leave it behind 100% every single time. Maybe for some it is, but yeah, for me it's important to, it's not about being afraid of taking it with me home. It's more about, I really want to give it all on stage. I want to
Mm,
leave it on stage,
right.
like I don't, if someone came to me and was like, I felt like you didn't really give it all, that would be like something that would be like, damn it, why didn't I, I should have done more, but when people say to me, oh my god, you just went for it, I
Right.
told, that's like one of the biggest compliments they
Mm.
can give me, yeah.
That's something there's a couple of, videos of you performing, your theater
Mhm.
performances on
Mhm.
YouTube. And when you scroll through the comments, whenever someone mentions you, like, of course, people say, oh my gosh, he was amazing, he was
Mm.
extraordinary. But the comments I I see and that really remain with me are like,
Mm.
this guy's having the time of his life. I remember
Yeah,
seeing that comment
yeah,
specifically on a video of Hamilton, and
yeah,
I was like, yeah, that resonates with, what you're
yeah.
saying right now, right? You're just
Yeah, I
leaving it all
was.
out there.
Trust me, I was. Especially that show. I played that show for over a year almost, and
Oh
people were
my.
like, "Didn't you get bored of it?" And I promise you, Nishat, I was like, every single performance was exciting. Because first of all, I was like, I can't believe I'm getting to do the show. That's one
Yeah.
thing. But it's also the way the characters are written, the journey that those characters have, Hamilton and Burr.
Yeah.
It's so exciting and so, you know, it's every actor's like, dream to get to do something like that, go through a journey like that in the course of a 3 hour show. So yeah, I was having the time of my life playing those shows. So I agree with you. When I read that comment, those comments especially, I was like, I had the time of my life doing this. Yeah, it's true. It's very true.
When you're saying, I actually didn't know that you were performing essentially the same
Yeah,
musical or the same production for a year
yeah,
on end.
yeah.
When you say that you were excited each time,
Mm.
was it the same excitement that you had from day one, or was it new forms of excitement as you were performing each time, as you were discovering and exploring
Yeah,
this role more and more through performing it?
that's a great
If that
question. I
makes
think I
sense.
think I,
Yeah.
I think it absolutely it does. I think it's a mixture of both, to be honest, because
Mm.
if we take Hamilton as an example, the way the show is written, I don't know if you've seen the show, but
There's a video on YouTube of a random, I don't know if it's random or if
yeah,
maybe like a super famous production group. But
yeah,
yes,
but
there's a video. I watched it.
it's also on Disney Plus also. But yeah, but the way it's written is that Burr, the so to speak, the
Antagonist. Yeah,
antagonist, so to speak,
quote
and
unquote.
also
Yeah.
like, yeah, quote unquote, but also like the storyteller of the story.
Right.
It starts with him literally walking on stage totally alone. There's only one single spot. He walks on stage alone, and then the music starts, and then he starts like telling the story. For me, that was like a. I remember the first time I went on stage as Burr. That was like incredible because I was like, I'm literally the first person walking on the stage right now, totally silent, no music, just one light, and then the music, bum, ba da da dum, bum, bum. It just starts, and then you have to go. So that was it was nerve wracking and exhilarating. So that feeling always stuck with me. Like every single time I played Bird, that stuck with me. And similar to that, the way Hamilton enters the show, like they do this build up, like ஒரு மாஸ் ஹீரோ தமிழ் மாஸ் ஹீரோ build up, right? They tell this story about this guy, this founding father, and like, what he did and everything he fought for, and then Burr's like, "What's your name, man?" And Hamilton walks on, and he's on center stage, and everyone looks to him, and he's being like, and he's just like Alexander Hamilton, like very simple, right? But there's a certain level of mass to that entrance,
Mm,
It's
mm,
it's
mm.
very like, oh my god, hero entry right here, you know. So that was also exciting and also very nerve wracking at the same time. So that feeling for both characters never went away. I had that feeling every single time I went on stage. But beyond that, like you said, it's also about every single time I played the characters, it was always a new discovery. I had something from the time before. I'm like, oh, that was exciting. What's going to happen today? Like all of that. So all of these feelings, all of these excitement, playfulness, what have you, it just fills you when walking into that these shows, right? It's like entering a room being like, what are the possibilities, like, like what's going to happen today. That's the playfulness, and that's the joy of doing this job. And I felt that every single time, especially with Hamilton. And a big reason for that is also the cast, because the people I work with, I mean, it was the most amazing cast. Like it's probably, I mean, I'm sorry to the others, but it's probably my favorite cast of all time, like that I've worked with. I'm so sorry, but it is the truth, because this cast was just filled with so many amazing people who shared the same story as I did. Like we all shared the immigrant story
Right.
in one way or another, which was very new to me. And we came together to tell this one story, 13 different nationalities come together to tell this one story, this one vision. It was beautiful. And they were just so generous and so, you know, like incredibly talented. Like it was just straight up fire to perform with these people. So yeah, that was a special experience for sure.
And you talk about this special experience, but you
Mm,
had a really big lead role quite early on.
yes.
Um, I mean, I guess there were a couple of the one I'm thinking of is you playing Moses
Yeah.
in The Prince of Egypt, and that was
Yeah.
that was the international, like the debut of that,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And you were
Yes.
playing
Yeah.
Moses,
Yeah.
arguably the most important character in that
Arguably.
production.
Yeah. Yeah. It was the official world premiere production of that show. Yeah.
That is nuts, isn't it?
That's crazy. That's insane. Like even thinking about it now, I'm like, did that really happen? Like,
And
did I
this
really?
was, were
Yeah.
you like fresh out of the academy or just shortly
The
after?
the crazy thing is, Nishat, I was in my third and final year at the music academy,
Huh.
and his name is Sean. Sean was the producer at the theater in Fredericia where I live right now.
Right, right.
At that
Yeah.
time, he was the creative director and producer, and he was contacted by Stephen Schwartz, who had written the music for Prince of Egypt, the movie,
Yeah.
and about making a musical version of this film, and obviously he was very excited, and Stephen Schwartz was like, do we have anyone who could play this character in Denmark? And CERN at that time was also, he had also been my vocal coach at one of my grades, and he was like, I have a guy. I think I have a guy. So let's do an audition. And at the start we were trying to see if I could go to the US to do an audition in person,
Huh.
but we couldn't make it happen for scheduling reasons.
Right.
And so CERN arranged this video audition, and I was like, we're just gonna talk like a Zoom call
Yeah.
maybe, or something. I'm gonna sing. Entered this room. It was at the academy. He had arranged for it, and first of all, there's like tables for CERN and other producers to sit and watch. At least the ones who could, those who could attend
Right.
physically. But besides that, there were like, I remember four cameras, like four professional cameras, some pointing at me, some pointing at them, and there was like a mic setup. So they had the sound technician from the theater come in. Tim is his name, and Tim gave me like a proper mic and
Mhm.
like everything. We did a sound check, we did a video check, and then they're like, "Are we ready?" And then they called the US. So it was like, "Oh my God, there's so much pressure on this to make this happen." But Sam was like, "I this we have to make this happen. I believe
Right.
you're the one for this." So I'm forever grateful for his enthusiasm for this, and then we called the US, and I remember there was a screen so I could watch them as well, like I'm
Right.
watching you right now
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
over the screen. And the crazy thing is that we were doing this over 3 time zones, because Stephen Schwartz was in Los Angeles working on the pre-production for the Wicked films
Oh,
at
right.
that time.
Okay.
Like he was, they were talking about that, and his son Scott Schwartz, who's the director of the show,
Mm.
was in New York, so different time zone, and I was in Denmark, different time, so 3 different time zones. It was really crazy to think about. And yeah, I read some scenes and I sang the songs, and it went very well. Like I had a great feeling. I was expecting to wait like for months, because this is
Mm.
a huge show, it's the
Yeah.
world premiere. They're going to take some time. So as soon as I left the room, I was like, thank you so much for the opportunity. I left the room. I remember San opening the door, just sticking his head out and being like, Diluckshan, can you just wait like 10, 15 minutes in the library? I was like, sure. So I went to the library at the school. I sat down, just, trying to control my nerves, because I'm like, what is this? Is it like an instant rejection or something?
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know what it
yeah.
is, right? And 10 minutes go by and he walks in. And I remember he's like, in Danish, he's like, congratulations, you're going to play Moses in the world premiere production of The Prince of Egypt. He's like, and that's how he said it. He was like very cold, very stoic
Right.
about it, because he's
Yeah, yeah,
he
yeah.
likes to do that, be very cool about these things. Uh, I just remember like falling to my knees and being like, what? But I was not prepared to get this answer this close, like this
Right.
quickly. But that's how it went. But again, this was for the Danish production, right?
Oh,
I knew that they were going to do like an initial production in California prior to the Denmark
right.
production, to test out the material, basically. So I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm excited to hear about how that goes. 2 weeks or something goes by, and Sharon calls me and he's like, so Diluckshan, they really want you to come to the US to play Moses there as well. I'm like, what? Like, what are you saying to me? It's like, yeah, they really want to do it. I was like, is that even possible? Can we make that happen? And again, Sharon, being the cool guy he
Yeah.
is, he's like, we're gonna make it happen. Don't worry, it's gonna yeah, it's gonna happen. So we started this whole process of getting like a work like a visa to work in the
Right,
US.
right.
they had lawyers appointed to get that done, like paperwork. And I finished school. My debut after finishing school, like literally the day after, was working on The Hunchback of Notre
Right,
Dame,
right.
the
Yeah.
musical. So I did that in Copenhagen for like, I think, about 2 months. And then I came home, and I was like home mid August or something. I'm not sure, or late August. And I remember like beginning of September, I flew to California to do Prince of Egypt. So yeah, this was fresh out of school, like you said. So it's totally insane. It's totally insane. I don't know how they trusted me, but I'm very grateful that they did. But yeah, they saw something, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I remember because I wasn't aware of this until I started preparing for the
Yeah,
podcast, because
yeah.
I only sort of knew the Tamil musician side of you. I didn't know
Mm,
much about
mm,
the sort of theater actor side of you. I
yeah, I
remember
get
I
that.
went to the Prince of Egypt musical Wikipedia page and
Yeah,
and it lists out the cast.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
on the top of the list is Diluckshan Jeyaratnam. I'm like,
Yeah,
what the
yeah.
heck?
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's insane. Someone sent me that Wikipedia. Some of my
Yeah.
classmates. He sent me that
Uh,
Wikipedia page, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is too real. Like this is way too real." But yeah, yeah. And my parents, even my parents, my mother, she was like,
yeah.
again, the sensible mom was like, "Seti, this is what he's gonna do. Perfect." Like she was. I think for her, it was like to see the dream come to fruition,
Mm,
like this is okay. It was not just a pipe dream. This is
right.
actually like that's what even this day my mother would say, I never doubted that you had the talent. For me, it was a matter of would the world
Yeah.
recognize it, like would they see it, so you could actually have a career, that you could actually live out this dream. And she was like, when she saw me in school doing some concerts and stuff, she was like, yeah, this he's definitely gonna go places with this, so yeah, it was a beautiful moment to realize that it was not just a pipe dream. Yeah.
Mm. That's incredible.
Mm.
And yeah, we've talked about your musical theater journey. Obviously, we could do like a whole 3 hours on that,
Oh,
but
absolutely, absolutely.
in the interest
Yeah.
of time, we have so many
Yes.
other aspects
Sure.
of your artistic
Sure.
journey to explore as well. And closely
Sure.
connected to your musical theater journey is your
Mm.
film journey,
Yeah.
right? And that's similar but very different at the same
Mm.
time, right?
It is. It is.
They're
Yeah.
both, I guess, sort of visual mediums of storytelling which incorporate music, but
Mm.
obviously they are two different sort of art forms.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Where did your interest in film specifically come from? And how did that?
It's
Yeah.
it's funny, Nishat, because the interest in film actually came before the interest in theater.
Oh, okay.
um it's weird, but I remember like I always loved watching films, especially in the cinema, like watching Tamil films in cinema. Like how that is, right? Like it's a huge event like
Yeah.
almost watching these films, like Rajani films, for instance, amongst so many others. But I just remember, um especially when I watched the Lord of the Rings. I'm a huge fan of the Lord of the Rings,
Right.
and I remember watching those films in the cinema. That was the first time I got interested not just in watching films but filmmaking, because
Ah,
I had the DVDs and I watched hours of behind the scenes footage of how they made these movies, because a lot of it was practical, right? Back then it
mhm.
was not, it was CGI, sure, but
Yeah.
a lot of it was made like by hand. So I was like very much excited about, wow, they actually made these things, they built these things, and then they filmed it. And I was like, that's when the interest in filmmaking started. So I started watching movies with a whole different lens, so to speak,
Mhm,
pun
mhm,
intended.
mhm.
Like I was like, how did they make this? And then I got very interested in the technical side of filmmaking, like cameras, how do cameras work, the frame rates, all these kind of things. So the great thing is that I grew up with two of my closest friends growing up, Jiten and Pradap. We kind of shared a lot of interests together, like, and we did a lot of things together. We danced together. We and then we also like picked up a camera. Like my father had like this camcorder, and we just went out and shot things, and we didn't even edit it because I didn't have editing software.
Right.
So we just, it was on tape back then, sure. So it was like record, stop, record, and then record the next thing, stop, record, and that's how we cut the films together. And then we just watched the tape, and it was like very badly cut, but still it was cut. It was like
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
edited. So that's how the dream started. And we even made a full feature film, like the three of us, named Paranoid
Parent
Patient.
patient. Yeah.
Yeah, which released back in 2013. And again, this was just three small boys having fun. Like literally, we didn't think about, how would it sell or how would it look, or we just like, this is how we want to do it. This is the story we want to tell. It was just kids being kids, basically. But it grew to be something much bigger than we could ever imagine. Like it went to film festivals and it won awards and stuff. So I was like, oh my God, okay, maybe there's more to this. But obviously the theater side of things took over. So for a long time, I didn't really do a lot with film, so to speak. Like Jide and Pradap and I, we did some projects here and there, and we did like a Tamil web series called Komali, which is like
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
comedy series, very much inspired by The Office. But it wasn't until recently, as you know, Jodi happened. Like I had the idea for Jodi way back in 2019, but I never got to like writing the script. I always had the idea in my mind, but it wasn't until like the last 2 3 years I started actually writing it down. And then once I had the cast, they were like very enthusiastic and pushing me like we have to shoot this. This could be good, and you have to do this. And then I was like, okay, fine, let's do it. But I'm so grateful that they did it. They
Mm.
pushed me, because now it's out. Now it's out. The music is out. The film is out, and yeah, like wonderful feedback is coming, constructive criticism, praises, like all of the above. Like it's kind of awakened that passion in me in a new level, like the filmmaking passion. Yeah.
And what's so interesting about Jodhi is, you're wearing so many different hats, right? You've
Yeah.
written the script, you've directed the movie, you've
Mm,
shot it yourself, you've edited it
mm,
yourself, and of
mm,
course you've got the music done by
yeah.
yourself as well, including the
Mm,
the title track that comes at the end.
yeah.
What is it like sort of wearing all these different hats within the
Mm,
same project?
yeah. I mean, to me, Nishad, it's a pleasure to be honest with you, because for me, I very much believe in like visions, like having a clear vision.
Yeah.
And it's different from project to project. Some projects, the collaboration of it is the pleasure, so to speak.
Mm.
With Jodi, the vision was so clear that I was happy about the fact that I got to do all the different departments, to be honest. Obviously, it's also like a cost cutting measure,
Yeah.
like if we have to talk practically, and time saving also. But still, I wanted to do this because I was like, this is a way for me not to just practice my director, the director in me. I wanted to practice the cinematographer. Like I wanted to rehearse that. I wanted to, and theory can only take you so far, right? So I was like, I wanted to get my hands dirty and shoot this and edit this and make the music. I want to, like, it's a way of me to it's a way for me to rehearse, to it's like going to the gym. I want to train these muscles, so it was a pleasure for me to do that. And yeah, I mean, it was very organic as well. I had like, it was very organic to like see the movie in my head and being like, I'm going to frame the camera like this because that's how I think it will make sense. But also like how the actors are performing. These amazing actors gave such beautiful performance. I was like, okay, I'm going to place the camera like this to highlight their performance while still telling the story in an efficient way. So yeah, it was just fun. It comes back to the kid being playful,
Right.
just playing around. Yeah.
You said just right now that you had such a clear vision for the film.
Mm, mm.
Obviously, when you say vision for the film, I understand it on like a practical level where, you have very clear ideas on what the scenes will look like, or, how the
Yeah.
story will shape out. But on
Yeah.
a sort of higher level, was there a
Yeah.
clear vision on what the film was supposed to mean? Is there a specific message that you intended the viewer to take away from it?
Absolutely. Amazing question. Yes, but yeah, absolutely. For me, it was like, it was very important to me, as it is with a lot of the things that I create, that I wanted to have some kind of emotional core. It's also important for me with the songs that I create. But if we talk about Jodi, it was very emotional. It's an emotional story. Like it's set around a musical environment. Like it's this artist who's struggling and everything. But at the center of it, it's an emotional story about human relationships. It's about human relationships. What do we do? How do we make choices that can affect others? Like it's very much, yeah, it's the human experience that I wanted to tell in a very short film. But still, that's what I wanted to touch upon. And so the vision was clear that the technical side of it should never overshadow the emotional core of it. So it was very important to me. But again, that was very much on the actors. Like I told every single actor, like, this is, it's about keeping it grounded. It's about keeping it real. We are not trying to flash anything here. Like, it's not flashy. It's a grounded story, and if we can like, the words that I've written are not gospel. Like, it's not like like you don't have to feel like you have to be like so totally like
Yeah.
stick to it. If you feel like something else happens organically, I would love to hear your suggestions, and we'll try to make it work in the story. The important thing is that it comes from an honest place. Whatever you say, it should come from an honest place, because that's how we make the story work. Especially because it's 22 minutes. It's tough to tell a lot in
Mm-hmm.
22 minutes,
Yeah.
right? So it has to be efficient, but also very much emotionally rooted. So yeah, to the great question you asked, the vision was very clear about how we should never sidestep the emotional side of it. It should be at the forefront. Like, because if that's not there, like, for the people who've watched the film, and I'm guessing you've watched it as well, there's a song at the end. The whole film ends with this song. That song has no meaning if the emotional core is not there. It's
Mm.
just maybe a pretty song, maybe, if you like it. But the reason why I get choked up and emotional when I watch it is because the groundwork is there beforehand, before that song enters at the end. So that was very important to me. The whole idea it started with this thought of a father writing something for his child, like a father who is struggling to write something. He has a creative block. He can't
Mm.
write anything. But once he starts writing something to his child, it opens up, because
Right.
now he's trying to write something that comes from a more honest personal space, um, which I think is very much also inspired by what I want to do. Like, I want to
Right.
write from a personal space, like keep it rooted in something personal. Yeah.
Something that you said just right now, and I'm gonna sort of move into another aspect of your creative journey.
Mm-hmm.
You said that the title track of Jodi is the beauty in that the sort of the beauty in that is in the 18 minutes that precedes it. Right?
Yeah.
It's that
Yeah.
groundwork that's laid,
Yes.
and then when the song comes, it hits you like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
I felt the same way when Maravade came as the seventh
Oh,
song
wow.
of
Yeah.
Payanam. And
Appreciate it.
I'm genuinely tearing up right now just thinking about it.
Yeah. Sorry.
It is, I can't describe what listening to that song was like, because I remember the first time I heard it was you hosted a YouTube live stream where
Yeah.
you sort of premiered the songs of Payanam. I think it was a couple of days before release.
Mm.
I remember it was at like 4 a.m. Japan time, or maybe 5 a.m.,
Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Set my alarm.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm getting up for this.
So sorry.
um,
Yeah.
so yeah, and then the rest of the songs were great. But Maravade comes, and I'm just like,
Mm.
oh my gosh, right?
Mm.
And I can't imagine what it would have been like to write that kind of song, right?
Mm. Mm.
It's, I mean, obviously as a creator, you're slightly detached from a song in a sense. Like, you can't cry every time you open up that Logic session, right?
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
some point
True.
you're like,
True.
what are these? How should I voice these string parts? What is this cello
Yes.
line going to sound
Yes.
like?
Yes.
But talk to me a little bit. We'll get on to the other songs in a second, but
Sure. Sure. All good.
talk to me a little bit about making Maravade, because there
Absolutely.
seems to be something there,
Oh, it's very personal. It's
right?
you hit it on the nail, because it's very personal in the sense that that song is very much how do you say, based, at least inspired. It's not based on true events, but it's very much inspired by events that happened to me.
Mm.
Happened in my life, and I was like, how would it be to, again, it has to come from a personal space. I was like, a song that somehow talks about a breakup, in this example, right?
Yeah,
Or in a broader sense, something coming to an end. But what if it's a beautiful end?
yeah,
And that's how it differs from reality. Because in my case, that potential end would have been devastating, and
right,
luckily it didn't end. it
right,
it
right,
it, it came together again. But I was like, what if it ended?
right.
Because there was this one moment where I was like, the partner leaves, and that is devastating. Like, as soon as the door shuts, I break down crying. uh but what if what if we flip that? It is emotional that the partner leaves, but this is for the right thing. My colleague said this in Hamilton, who played Washington, George Washington. His name is Charles. He said, when the show ended, he said, "Don't be sad that it's finished. Be happy that it happened, or be grateful that it happened." I'm paraphrasing a bit, but the
I get
meaning
the
is the
gist.
same.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's how I felt about Maravadi. Like, how can we, put that angle to it? Because breakup songs are very common in Tamil space. You know this, I know this, everyone knows this. So I was like, I wanted to put another space on it, because not everything in life, like not all endings are, soup song sad, like they don't have to be. Some endings are necessary, they are beautiful, they can be heartbreaking at the same time. That's the thing. One thing doesn't exclude the other. It can be both. It can be heartbreaking, but at the same time, this is what needs to happen. So I wanted to get that sense of real life into my music, So Maravadi is was and is and will forever be very personal. And I remember that the emotions very much fueled the song, because I'm sure, as a musically inclined person yourself, you will know that compared to the rest of the songs, both in the album and every other song I've ever made, this melody structure is very different. It's just like some chords, and then instead of doing a proper melody, it's more like da-na-na, da-na-na-na-na-na. Like I wanted it to be like fleeting words.
Yeah.
Like it shouldn't have a rhythmic structure. You can take these words and put them anywhere, and it'll still somehow work in the rhythm. Yeah. So already there, like with the guitar starting to do that, I was like, this is different, but I love it. It feels connected. It feels maybe like a monologue. I don't know, like being sung in a way. Um, and Yeah, like everything got fueled. Like the idea of putting in the cello, it wasn't conscious. It was just like, this song needs cello. Like the cello, in my opinion, is one of the most beautiful instruments in the world, and it can be happy, but it can also be very melancholic. Like, and I love that. I love the melancholic tone of it. And I was like, I wanted to be a part of this song. I needed to be a part of this song, and the piano, obviously, also. So it was in many ways it sticks out from the rest of the songs at the album, but it's very intentional, because it's like, this is, yeah. And also, even though I didn't know at the beginning that it should finish off the album, it also felt very like instinctively. I was like, this is it. Like, I'm not going to end on a high, so to speak, in terms of if we're talking tempo, but still, I'm going to end on an emotional note, and that felt right. I had so many conversations with one of my close friends named Antu Silva, who's based in UK, and we talk a lot about art and stuff, like in general, and life. And I remember sending him Maravadi without lyrics. I hadn't. The lyrics weren't written by Agilan, who's an amazing lyricist from Malaysia. I could talk about him for hours as well, but yeah, we hadn't done the lyrics yet. I just sent like the melody demo to Antu, and I remember he's like, I'm crying just by listening to the humming. And he was the one who was like, we call each other Taliva as a is an way of a loving term, and he's like, Taliva, I don't know why, but listening to this, I feel like there needs to be a poem at the end. There needs to be a kavide at the end. That was his idea. He was like, because he felt this feeling like when he watched Iruvar with Prakash Raj, உன்னோட நான் வாழ்ந்த ஒவ்வொரு மணித்துளியும் மரண படுக்கையில் மறக்க முடியாது கண்மை, this beautiful poem in Mani Ratnam's film. And he was like, this is what I'm feeling. This has to be at the end of the song. And I was like, that sounds like a great idea. Let's do it. And I talked a lot with Agilan. I was like, there's the song and there's this kavide at the end. And Agilan is an amazing poet. So he came back with this thing. We talked a lot about it, and it was very important to me to tell him that it can't be sad. Like, it is heartbreaking, but it's also hopeful. It's like there has to be this beautiful balance in it. It can't be a soup song, so to speak, right? So, and he just completely understood the assignment, and Agilan just went for it. And the kavide he brings at the end, I remember, like, when I started reading it, I started crying, and I like putting the music underneath that was not to sound arrogant, but it was easy because his words were so beautiful that the chords very naturally came to me. And so yeah, it's one of those songs. It got finished like that because it was like there was this one spark of inspiration that just blossomed into more and more, and in a short span of time, oh, we have a song, like, those kind of magical moments where things come together. So yeah, that song will forever have a very special place in my heart. I can honestly say all the songs I've made have a personal connection to me, but that song in particular is like, yeah, it's in a whole different space.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I
it is.
understand why. That's why I
Yeah,
brought it up
yeah,
first.
I appreciate you mentioning that song in particular.
But I mean, let's backtrack a little bit.
Mhm.
How did like composition in general sort of come about for you? Like
So
that,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It
Go ahead,
starts
go
with the
ahead.
guitar. It
Mm,
starts for me. It starts with me sitting with the guitar and just um, trying to. Sometimes I have a melody and then I try to put chords underneath it,
mm,
and that sparks it. And sometimes I just play around with chords, and then some specific chord progression is like, oh, that sounds interesting. Let's see what that becomes. And then I try to hum on top of it.
mm.
So that's pretty much 99% of the time that's how the process starts for me. You know, when it's the melody first, it's usually when I'm doing mundane things, like when I'm driving, I'll be like,
Yeah, yeah.
oh shit, I have to record this, and then I record it, no, 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 no. Or I start, I like cut vegetables or cook food. I'm like, no, no, no.
Going
Oh,
back to the spoons and pans from back
spoons
in
and
the
pans, it's the
day.
source of inspiration, right? It's the initial. It's so true. Like there's something there, and just being in the shower, like
Mm,
and how shower acoustics are. They're
yep,
amazing. So
yep.
you start humming, and all of a sudden there's like, oh, this is a melody. Like, so that's how it comes from the most mundane everyday things. That's where inspiration happens. So as soon as I can, I pick up the guitar and see what else it can become. But it always starts at the guitar.
Mm,
And then I see if, when I start to orchestrate it and arrange it, I'll be like, okay, this is a piano, or this is a cello, or this is something else. But it always starts at the guitar. That's my
mm.
main source of inspiration for songwriting. Yeah. Yeah.
You're talking about how songs start, and
Mm.
what really actually interests me about your album is how each song ends.
Oh yeah.
Teda De ends with
Yeah. A breath. Yeah.
Kurpanile ends with whoop.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And
Yeah.
obviously Maravade ends with a
Yeah.
poem.
Yeah.
Tell me, especially Kurpanile really sort of hit me because it's
Yeah.
building up and the
Yeah.
tension really builds up. You think something's gonna happen
Yeah.
and then it just stops.
Yeah. It's yeah, man. I love that you're mentioning these things, because no, but you know how sometimes we make something and we're like, this is only interesting for me. But when you hear someone else mention it, I'm like, yes, yes, I get so
Why
excited.
do you think I started this
Yeah,
podcast?
that's what. Yeah, I get so excited about this. Thank you. No, I just have to show my appreciation for you in this case. No, but Kulapanile, it's funny. Kulapanile was the funny thing about Kulapanile is that from the very first how do you say, demo of it, it was a very cinematic song for me.
Yeah.
In the sense that I saw visuals, like while completing it. I saw like, oh, this could be this could be this. Like the lyrics themselves don't necessarily describe something specific,
Yeah.
but it's a state of mind. It's a
Mm.
nile, it's a
Yeah.
kulapa
Yeah.
nile, right? So, and that can be a lot of things
Yeah.
depending on who listens to it. So for me, I saw a lot of like different visuals of, like very dark visuals, like
Mm-hmm.
this could be an abusive relationship, or
Right.
this could be an addiction. This could be so many things that are dark and abusive, whether it's abusive to others or self-abuse. It could be a lot of things. And when doing the ending, for me, it was like the movie goes into black. The movie builds up, builds up, builds up, and then black screen, and then it says title. Like that, like almost like a Christopher. It's like the ending of Oppenheimer, just for an example. Like
Right, right,
build up,
right.
build up, build up, black screen, and then it says Oppenheimer. Like that kind of feeling. So that's why I was like, this song is gonna end on a black, figuratively. So that's how it happened, and I just tried it out. And when I listened to it, I was like, yeah, that's it.
Mhm.
Like, it's one of those things where I can't necessarily explain why it makes sense, but it
Yeah.
just feels right. It feels right to end this song in this way. um I think it was the feeling it left me with, when the song just goes to black, so to speak. I had this feeling of unresolvedness. Like, so I didn't get the resolution. I didn't
Yeah.
get the ending. I didn't get that satisfaction of an ending. So it kind of frustrates me. It leaves me in that quote unquote kulapanile state, So it's the emotion of it that drove that ending, so to speak. Yeah.
And it's so fitting that Maruade follows that, right?
Oh yeah.
Because
Oh yeah. It was like, yeah, now we're gonna heal, like kind of thing. Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm just fanboying about Maruade at this point, but
No, I appreciate it.
it affects you so much. And what I really love is you leave so much empty space at the end of the song. There's like a
Mm,
solid, I don't know
yeah.
exactly how many seconds, probably like 10 seconds of just dead
Yeah. Yeah.
silence.
Yeah. It's true. It's just we finish on a beautiful C major,
Yeah.
and just like now it's resolved, and then it's just the chord is just sustaining, and at some point it just goes out, and that
Yeah.
silence. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's very much inspired by, again, movies, but also theater pieces. Like the most beautiful shows I've watched in my life, they end on a way that leaves a lot of silence to to have an emotional reaction, and that somehow ends in a huge applause, right?
Right,
Like
right,
in
right,
theater
right, right.
production. But that gutting feeling of being left with something when all the lights on the stage go out, and you're like, you sit there for like 10 seconds with your own emotions and be like, what did I just experience? So it was very much inspired by that. I was like, this song is heavy, like emotionally, and I want people to, whatever they're feeling, whatever it is the emotions are, I want them to sit with that before the next song on Spotify starts, like so to speak. You need that silent space, because we know this. Like the world moves fast these days,
Yep,
so the one song goes to the next pretty quickly. So
yep.
I was like, let's stay with our emotions. Like that really means a lot to me. Yeah,
And you've spoken in the past about, how you don't care about how people respond to your work, right? You do your work
yeah,
for yourself
yeah,
and
yeah.
it fulfills your own sort of creative appetite.
Mm, mm.
But obviously there's this thing about, wanting to be recognized for the hard work that
Sure,
you put in.
sure,
And
sure.
not just that, but also like you were saying, like it feels nice when someone recognizes, or I don't know if recognizes is the right word, but resonates with what we've sort of put into the work,
Yeah, yeah,
right? So you've
yeah.
put in all this thought into each song,
Mm.
and it feels like you were saying you were happy to hear me sort of pointing out even like
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
zero point zero zero
Absolutely,
0.001% of what you've
absolutely.
done.
Yeah.
I can't help but feel that not enough people in the world have heard this, right?
Yeah. I
Is
understand
that,
what you
I
mean.
mean, just be
I understand.
completely honest, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
of course, you're super fulfilled creatively. I'm sure you're so
Mm,
proud of what you've done. But
mm,
either with Bayanam or Jodi or any of your other works, is there
yeah.
that feeling that, especially with your original works,
Mm.
you wish it sort of reached a bit more people or not
No,
at all?
absolutely. There is. I mean, I definitely do wish that it could reach more people, because I it's not about how much work I put into it, Nishad. It's just like, this is something that's personal. This is something that, at least in my opinion, is artistic. And what the reason I say that is not to praise myself as an artist above others, like, not at all. It's just that it's more the fact that this is a personal piece of work. This is something that came from personal space and created to be shared with, yeah, with it's art, right? I think it's a definition of art, to work in that kind of methodology. And in that sense, sure, I would love that to reach more people, because I do think that it can move people. It can make them happy, it can make them sad, it can make them angry, but it's just make them feel something, instead of just being something that you can listen to and then that's it,
Hmm.
or watch and that's it. I think the best art is something that makes us feel something, and I'm at least trying my best to strive to do that. That's what I'm hoping to do. Whether I'm successful in that depends on the listener, or viewer. But so yeah, there's definitely a side of me that's like, sure, I'd wish that it would reach more people. But I also have to point at myself. I also know that I'm the culprit. I know that I suck at marketing. Like, that's not my interest. That's not
Yeah,
what I want to spend my time on, because
yeah,
that's the thing. You have to respect marketing. It takes time, it takes energy, it's a huge part of it's a huge job in itself. So you have to respect that, and I really do. That's why I'm like, I know that I don't want to spend that much time on that. I want to spend my time on creating. So
right.
so it's very much my own fault that in this day and age my creations don't reach as many people
Right.
as it could.
I mean,
That's
it's a
my own fault.
choice. It's not
It's a
necessarily a
choice. Yeah,
fault, right?
yeah. That's a good way of putting it. It's a choice. It's a conscious choice, and I totally accept the consequences of that choice. I really do. But it is on me, like in many ways. Also, that's my point of it. And to get back to you using the word recognition, which I think is the right word. I think artists, by definition, are selfish. I am. Trust me, I'm a selfish artist. I am, and they do crave feedback. They do crave response and recognition. Like the feeling of being on stage and getting an applause, it's a dialogue. It's a dialogue between performer and audience. So absolutely, the feedback is crucial for what we do as artists. So I totally agree with you. I don't like I do mean that the statement about I don't care about what people think about what I put out there. I do believe that that's an honest statement.
Yep.
But at the same time, recognition and, as you said, people resonating with what I do is definitely, like, you resonating and noticing things that I thought maybe only I thought about is a huge gratifying feeling. Like it's satisfying. It's yeah, it means a lot to me. I really appreciate it. I'm really grateful for that, because it goes it goes a lot of layers deep. Like, instead of just being on the surface and be like, oh, this sounds nice, So I appreciate that a lot. It's more of a philosophy also. I think when I do something, when I create something, I make it for me, because I do believe the more rooted, the more universal it becomes, in a way. So I wanted to keep it personal. I want to keep it rooted in something that I care about, because then I think it would resonate on a deeper level with others as well, if that makes sense. So it's a philosophy. It's like, I'm doing this for myself. I'm making this movie for one viewer, and that's me. I want to enjoy this movie. I want to see it like this. In that way, I can fully stand behind it. Right. And if we take Payanam, or if we take the title track of Jodi, I want to make this song for me. I want to listen to this song. This is the thing. I'm embarrassed to see my work and listen to my work with others. I love to see it and listen to it myself. Like in my car, in my car, I love listening to like Payanam songs. I'm like, yes, this works. Exactly. I listen to Sola Kat and I'm like, yes, this is exactly what I wanted to listen to. Or I need a cry. I'm gonna put on Maravade. This is what I want to listen to when I cry. Like, this is my whole philosophy behind creating. Is that I'm making it for me, because then I know it's personal and rooted, and hopefully it would resonate with people like you, for instance. It would have Maravadi will have an emotional reaction, like you just talking about that song and you getting a bit choked up. That's what I wanted to experience with that song. So that's why I'm thankful for that. So I know some people take it as a I'm not saying you do, but I know some people take it as an arrogant comment to be like, I don't care about what others say, but that's not where I'm coming from. It's I want to share this with you. I want to share this with the whole world, but I still have the philosophy that I'm making this for myself, because then I think it will resonate with you even more. That's the idea behind it. Yeah.
Makes sense. And
I hope talked so. I hope so.
And we've spoken a lot about, what you've done with your life so far. And I just want to know, what are your sort of plans for the future? What are you looking forward to? What can we look forward to with regards to your journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. I hope I am, as of now, like I feel I'm in a very much how do you say this, transitional period right now, in the sense that theater has been a huge part of my life for several years now. It's been like the foundation of my career, professional career in many ways. I feel like I'm trying to diversify, in lack of a better word, in the sense that I would love to do theater still, and I intend to, but I'm actually going to pursue other creative outlets as well. So that could be filmmaking, definitely, but more than that, performing, like concerts. Like, for several years, people have been asking me from different countries, please come and perform. And because of being busy with theater, I couldn't get out of it. Like I didn't have the time to go to UK or to Singapore or to Canada to perform. Now I am consciously taking the time, like choosing some things, like choosing not to do some things in order to keep those doors open so I can, perform. So hopefully we're figuring things out, but hopefully I'll be performing in Singapore very soon, for the first time ever. So I'm very excited about that. So this is an exclusive. No, so yeah.
And he's gonna hop on a plane to Japan right after, right?
I mean, I have to say, Japan is like a dream destination for me and my wife. So
One
I would
flight
love to.
away.
It's true, but it's because we have a 3-year-old, so we're
Oh,
trying
fair
to
enough.
like
Okay.
as soon as she's older to not be as dependent,
Okay.
we'll be
Fair
like,
enough.
let's
Fair
go,
enough.
because
Fair
we
enough.
have to go to Japan. We have to see everything, and yeah, maybe do a concert or two. That could be amazing. I love the fact that you live in Japan. Sorry, just a sidetrack, but I love that's so cool. That's so cool. No, I would love to go to Japan, but again, you know how when we choose something, we always close other doors, right?
Yeah.
So for me, because theater was always something that I chose, a lot of other doors got closed. So I'm trying to, keep theater a bit at bay to open those doors. So I want to focus on doing concerts. I want to focus on maybe doing more film work. I want to focus on, getting other creative outlets um, you know, where I can open my mind a bit, being more open to other opportunities, so to speak. I do miss performing more in Tamil, like, most recent, we've been doing these intimate concerts in Denmark, and that's been amazing. But, I got to perform I got to do like a pre-act for Hariharan
Yeah.
in Germany last year. And I realized how much I missed it, performing for a Tamil audience and singing cover songs, but also my own songs just with the guitar. So, getting back to that, hopefully I will do a proper concert, like the Diluckshan live concert with the band. We're working on some ideas for that and trying to do a setup that is very mobile so we can take it on tour. So it's not only in Denmark, so maybe Japan. So who knows? I don't even know like how many people, like Tamil people, the Tamil community in Japan, how big it is, but I would love to make a Tamil concert there. I would love to. I would love to. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's the answer to your question. What you can expect is hopefully something more diverse. Yeah, something different. And definitely, I miss doing my own songs as well. So hopefully, some more original songs. I have a lot. Like my phone is filled with voice memos of songs, and the folder for those memos is called Second Album. But right now there are like memos for literally 55 songs, if not more. So I need to condense it. I'm gonna select a few of those, be like, this is gonna be on the album, and we can save the rest for the next one, right? So yeah. After talking to you, I'm even more like motivated to do my own songs now. I'm like, there's this dude in Japan who understands everything I do. I need to make my songs for this guy. Yeah. That's amazing.
Oh my gosh, I'm honored to hear that. And we have a closing tradition on this podcast, and
Sure.
I ask the same question to every guest that comes on.
Mhm.
It's a very simple question, and that question is, what's on your playlist?
What's on my playlist? That's a great question. Sorry, the thing is, I don't have like a specific playlist that I listen to at the
Sorry,
moment.
I have to be honest. I asked this
Yeah.
question. I don't operate on playlists either. So I
Yeah,
totally
yeah.
understand.
No, it's okay. It's okay. No, it's a great question. Like I really do shuffle around a lot. That's why.
Mhm.
Right now I am listening to the Tuck Life album
Ah,
by
yes.
Rahman.
Yeah.
I'm listening to especially one song in particular because it's kind of haunting me in a beautiful way, like Rahman songs sometimes do. But the Hindi version of Mutta Malay, sung by Chinmay.
Ah, yes, yes, yes. Is it called Angangumore, I think?
Thank you.
Yeah.
There you go. That's the title. Yeah, I just forgot the Hindi title. It's so beautiful. It's haunting me. Like her voice is incredible. Again, a timeless voice.
Yes.
And yeah, especially that version is really hitting hard. So I'm listening to that a lot. I go for a lot of walks. Sorry, I'm just continuing, but I'm going for a lot of walks these days. So I listen to there's this song from Retro by Santosh Narayanan called "The One." I don't know if
Ah,
you
yeah,
listen
yeah,
to it.
yeah.
Yeah, it's very motivating. It's like a workout. It's like a workout song. So I'm like the one, and I'm just going for a long walk. Yeah, it's like it's motivating me somehow to be healthy, or at least healthier. But if we talk about playlists, and I promise to close on this, but if we talk about playlists, my wife, who's also a beautiful singer, and she's has a great taste in music, at least in my opinion. But yeah, she has made her own playlists on Spotify that are like public, so people can follow it and stuff. So, and I listen to her. She has a playlist called 70s and 80s, 1970s, 1980s. And I always go back to that one because it's filled with like MS Viswanathan, Ilayaraja, stuff like that. She also has 90s one with beautiful music by Deva and Rauman and Siraj Kumar. But still, the 70s, 80s is the one that I keep going back to if we talk about playlists. So I will say that one. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So yeah, in terms of the recording, we'll close things off there. I have to say, just before I say my final thank you, I said at the beginning that I've been a fan of yours for many years, and it's really interesting, sort of my relationship with you without you knowing I existed. Because you came onto YouTube at a very interesting time where I think NRI started getting a lot more recognition in the Tamil music scene.
Yeah.
You came up in terms of YouTube, in the same time as like Inogenga, for instance.
True.
And in the film scene, Sid Sriram was coming up, Sasha Tirupati was coming up, Joyinta Gandhi was coming up. And for a kid living outside India, and I wasn't really surrounded by many Tamil people aside from my family. But I was obsessed with Tamil music. You were sort of home in that sense.
Wow.
And over the years, it's been really cool to see you evolve. That's why I was so excited when you announced that you were releasing your first album. And that hit me in a totally different way. And obviously now you've released Jodi, which is a whole sort of different kind of production of its own.
Sure.
So it's so cool to see you branch out into so many different creative pursuits, yet there's always a sort of core there that binds all of that together, right? You can tell it's done by the same person, right?
Appreciate it.
So I was really, really excited for this conversation. I'm really glad we're able to make it happen. So
Nishad, I sorry if I just have to say though, this has and I mean this honestly, this has been one of the most profound interview experiences I've ever had. Like honestly, because it's just because I've had a lot of great conversations, but and they are beautiful on a on a surface level, if that makes sense. But the fact that you geek out, and I mean that in the best of ways, because I'm a geek myself. I love that. I love being geeky about things, and the way you geek out about music and details in the songs, again, things that I thought that only I would get excited about. I don't know, for some reason. No, but it just means a lot because it takes it from a superficial level to superficial, is that superficial, surface level, I don't know, to a more deeper emotional core. So I just really want to say, like, I didn't know what to expect before our talk, honestly, but I was like, I want to talk with this guy for hours and hours and hours, because not just about my things, but in general, because I think we can, really geek out about a lot of stuff. So really, sincerely, thank you, because that means a lot. Like I haven't experienced this before, so you're doing an amazing job. I really mean that. That's incredible.
Thank you so much. That means the world to me. So yeah, for listeners that have stuck around for the past 2 hours, thank you very much. I'm sure you're all following Diluckshan on his socials and YouTube, but if you're not, please do. And he was talking about not being so good at marketing. Yes, he may only post something once in every 2 years, but when he does, it'll be gold. So make sure to follow him on every platform possible. I'll leave the links in the show notes. So just want to say thank you again.
Thank you.
Well, that was Diluckshan Jeyaratnam on the 30th episode of the Indoencers Podcast, and thank you to everyone that has tuned in. You can find us at the Indoencers, spelled THEINDOENCERS, on YouTube, Twitter, or Instagram, or you can use the links in the description. Make sure to subscribe to the Indoencers Podcast on your favorite podcasting platform. Thank you once again, and we'll see you next time.